Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third and final segment of EDEX Edutainment here at EDEX Media Expo 2024. So, as it was announced inside, we would like to invite all of you to join us at the marquee, but we'll also have a few of you who will be watching us through your screens, through the recording that will be made during this all-important edutainment session. So, just a while ago, we had a chat with some artists about multiple aspects of their life moving into art and how did they find success through that. And now we are taking a slightly different turn. We are getting into some professionals. We have a lot of industries that we'd like to cover. We have 5 professionals who will be joining us in this segment. So without further ado, let me invite the 5 individuals who will be joining me on stage for this all-important final edutainment session here at EDEX Media Expo 2024. We have Dilantha Malagamuwa, Adisha Dahanayaka, Shandimal Fernando, Harpo Gunaratna, along with Bhanuka Harishchandra. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me on stage for this all-important segment. So, ladies and gentlemen, so this is what we call edutainment. Let me move my chair so I can see all of you clearly. So this is what we do here. Now, normally, this session is not like a formal panel discussion where I ask you serious questions and expect long answers. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get into your stories, your challenges. We're going to bounce ideas off each other. We're trying to mix education and entertainment. In the meantime, if you'd have any talent that you'd like to showcase in addition to your professional side, of course, I can't force you all to sing or do anything else. But if you all would like to, that is where we can bring the true entertainment out of it also. So I think without further ado, as we see the crowd coming in, let me start from Harpo, from the furthest from here. In a nutshell, now of course, people know about Harpo's Pizza. People know what you've done. In the case of all of you, I'd like to hear yourself. And also one more thing, we call this edutainment. I would speak in English sometimes. මම සමහරලාට සිංහලෙන් කතා කරයි, මම දෙමළෙන් කතා කරන්නේ නැති වෙයි කියලා හිතමු. You can feel free to talk in any language, put in a word or two in any language that you feel comfortable. Tell me a bit about yourself in your words, in a nutshell.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me to share my experience at this exhibition. Yeah, so in a nutshell, I'll try to make it very brief, actually. I was educated at St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia, and I come from a family of 2. I got an elder brother, and did a bit of sports in college, played a bit of cricket and rugby for college, and thereafter I left college and I joined hotel school, where I wanted to pursue myself with meeting people. So people business, that's what I'm basically in, you know. And I pursued my hotel school career. And of course, while doing that, at that time, I was one of the first DJs in this country. I think that time nobody knew what a DJ was. And I'm talking in 1980. And yeah, that was a part-time job for me, actually. And then it became a profession, actually. So it ideally went together where entertainment and hospitality just went hand in hand. And since then, I have been obviously working with some international chains. I was with the Hilton in Colombo. Then I did the Hilton in China. I did the Hilton in Japan. I worked at the now Colombo. Now it's called Cinema Lakeside, which was the Renaissance then, which was one of the first 5-star properties to come in, international 5-star. And I managed a place called the Library, where people thought I used to read books, but actually I used to play music there. And I did that in the nighttime, and I worked in the daytime, but I hardly slept. But I enjoyed it, and since then it has been a long journey, and I'm yet enjoying it. And yeah, in a nutshell, I could say that.
Thank you very much. From an entertainer, we are now looking into a very different profession, someone who works with speed. Dilantha.
Yeah, my name is Dilantha Malagamuwa, and I was born in Kurunegala, and grade 1, I studied at St. Anne's College, Kurunegala, and then from grade 2, I was at Trinity College, Kandy. And my mother was my best friend, still she's my best friend. So my father was a very strict person, so hardly I could speak to him. And my mother wanted me to become a doctor. So I wanted to fulfill her dream, and I used to study very well in school. I was always first, second, third in school. But at the age of 14, I saw this crazy movie, a Hollywood movie called Silver Dream Racer. And after watching that, I wanted to become a world champion in motorcycle racing. And I had a passion for motor cars and motorcycles from very early days. And when I used to come back from the boarding for the holidays, I used to sneak the cars and motorcycles out. My father never knew about it until I was about 14. He never knew I could ride or drive. And at the age of 16, I did my first race. My grandmother bought me a Honda CV50, and I raced that, and I rode it from Kurunagal to Katakurund and did my first race and won it. And soon after getting my trophy, my father came to Katakurund and gave me a big slap and said, "Who asked you to race here?" And anyway, so didn't stop that, but my intention always wanted to become an international rider. So anyway, I have two sisters, and they're very, they love me a lot, and also they support me a lot. And they actually forced my father to buy me a 350 at the age of 16, a thoroughbred. I could hardly handle it, but my father bought it for me, and he said, "If you ever have an accident, you are not going to race again, and you have to promise me." So I said, "Yes." I knew I'm not going to, I will not, stop racing. It was a broken promise, but I said, "Yes, of course, I will never race if I have an accident." But with that, at the age of 16, I rode against all the top riders in Sri Lanka in the thoroughbred, and I was able to finish third in the first race, and in the second race, I was about to lead the race, and I had a big crash, broke my leg, and my father said, "No more racing," but I never stopped. And then I did my first international race in India in 1983 when I was 19. And actually, so I had to, my parents didn't allow me to go, and they didn't know. So it was in India, and it was so difficult to, to persuade my father for me to go to India. So I had to find the easiest way to go to India was taking a train from Kurunagal to Talaimanna, from there ferry to Rameshwaram, and then another train to Madras, which I did with two of my friends. And I did my first race in India, where I met this Japanese guy, Matsumoto, and he actually inspired me to come to Japan. And at the age of 20, I sold my car, bought a one-way ticket, and with 4,000 rupees, I left to Japan to fulfill my dreams. And I could do it, yeah. So I'll talk more about it.
So why are we doing this? ඇයි මම මේ one by one ගිහිල්ලා කතාව සරල වහන්නේ? මොකද සමහරලාට අපි හිතනවා මේ අපි දකින්නේ success එක විතරයිනේ. මේගොල්ලෝ මෙහෙම දෙයක් කරලා තියෙනවා, ඉපදිච්ච ගමන් කරලා ඇති. ඉපදිච්ච ගමන් දිලන්තට ගෙදරින් කාර් එකක් අරන් දීලා හරි ගිහිල්ලා රේස් පදින්න කියලා කියන්නේ නැති. Only now we see the challenges they've had. මිනිස්සු කියපු කතා රට්ටු කියපු කතා එහෙම කොහොමද කරන්නේ? ඔහොම දෙයක් මීට කලින් වෙලා නැහැ. ඔයා විතරක් ඇයි මෙහෙම කරන්නේ? ඔයාට මොකද්ද තියෙන අමාරුව? ඔය ඔක්කොම ප්‍රශ්න මේ අද ඊයාපු ප්‍රශ්න නෙවෙයි. 1900 බර ගණන් වල ඉඳන් 1800 ගණන් වලන් ඊට කලින් ඉඳන්ම තියපු ප්‍රශ්න. So ඔය ප්‍රශ්න වලට how do we face it, and what have they done to ensure that they've challenged certain paradigms in their industries and in the way we work to ensure that we are somewhere, or they are somewhere here today, and through that they've also propelled the name of Sri Lanka to wherever it is today. With that, let me move to Adisha. Adisha, what's your story?
Hi, I'm Adisha Dahanayaka. I'm the founder and director at Double XL. So my story is quite different, actually, very impressive story, Dilanta. I'm a huge fan of you, by the way. So my story starts I'm from Kandy, and I studied in Good Shepherd Convent, and I did my higher studies in La Trobe University in Melbourne. So when I was there, I actually, I saw like people were really embracing their body shapes, right? But as soon as I came back to Sri Lanka in 2005, I went through a struggle because my body was changing and my body shape was changing, and I couldn't find sizes for myself. So at that point, I felt very depressed and very insecure. So one day when I went to a store to buy a pair of jeans to me, and I asked the sales assistant, like, can I buy this size? And then she started like, like telling me like really bad, like, she started like using some words like, which I felt very insecure. Like she started, my body parts, talking about my body parts and like my shape. So, which is not really cool at that point, because I think I was 24 years old at the time. So, I felt very insecure, and I felt very upset, and literally I cried inside the store. That was not the first time. I was like, many times it happens. See, the thing is, like, this is your body shape, right? And you can't help if you have any hormone issues, or if, because I was the school games captain in my school, right? So I was a very active woman, as in a student, but then my body changes. So at that point, so I just came out from that store, and I was thinking like, am I the only person who's going through this difficulty, as in like, to find clothes, like a plus size clothes. So then I felt there's a huge gap in the market. So I want to like, find a solution. So that was double XL. So yeah, that's my story.
So I often tell my friends that what you see me is probably the slimmest I've ever been. So I can relate very much to your story as well, in terms of how certain times, sometimes not even people who are far away, people within your families, within your networks would say, what is this? Why don't you do something? So sometimes it is within your control, sometimes it is not. And but the solution is what we need. And the way we went to your solution, we'll talk about it as we go along. Shandimal, let me look at you. What is your story? මොකද්ද කියන්න තියෙන්නේ මෙහින් අයට? How would you like to share your story to all of us?
First of all, I'm a proud royalist, and from grade 1 to A level. And during my school time, I was holding the highest rank in cadetting, and I was a 3-year athletic colorsman. And the Civil War started in 1983, beginning of 83. And I was all out to join army. And Sri Lanka Army selected 3 royalists direct from the school. I was one of them. But my parents didn't like it. I forged their signatures and applied. I selected for intake 19. The final letter came when I was not at home. So I got caught. And then finally what happened, parents dragged me and put me to Air Lanka, that time Air Lanka. So I really suffered 4 years working at Air Lanka because I was almost to join army. General Shavendra was a Sergeant Major, St. Thomas Matale. I was holding the same rank at Royal College Colombo 7. So this is what happened to me. So I was working at Air Lanka. I used to travel every day from Moratuwa to Katunayaka by bus. My salary was just 1,000 rupees, 1,001 rupees. So I struggled. I really didn't like to work at Air Lanka, but that was my line. Then myself and Diluk Gabadamudali, another royalist senior to me, both of us were working at Air Lanka. So both of us used to go at least 4 to 5 days, no pay at Air Lanka, because we started playing for hotels as instrumentalists. Then both of us decided, Machang, this is not going to happen. Let's quit. So we both of us resigned on the same day, and he joined Ramada Renaissances, and I joined Holiday Inns. And during that time, I didn't have a vehicle. I was really broke. 1986, all the bus routes, the last bus used to stop. The last bus was around 11:30 in the night. All the buses, no matter where, all the buses used to park at Mount Lavinia bus depot. So I used to catch this last bus, traveling from Holiday Inn's Golf Face to Mount Lavinia, and every day I used to walk from Mount Lavinia bus depot to Moratuwa at 12 in the morning, 12:30, I used to walk. So that's how I started my career. And somehow I wanted to be somebody, and then I started releasing an first instrumental cassette in Sri Lanka. That was a failure. I used to carry 400 cassettes, 200 each, chiri chiri bags. I used to walk down Malwata Road, every single shop, selling cassettes. They remember me. Still, I visit those shops. Every time I go to PETA, I used to drop in each and every cassette shop who helped me, who bought my cassettes. And I used to say, hello, Machan, how are you? And they love me because I visit them even now. So that's how I started my career, short and sweet.
And I think then that career propelled into multiple other directions, which we'd like to talk about as we go on. Finally, looking at you, Banuka, your Instagram handle still says Bar Noob. I think high time you change it to Bar Pro or Bar Expert, looking at what you've done since where you've started. Would you like to give us a summary of that story also?
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Banuka. Unlike a lot of people here, I am not a royalist. I went to Ananda. Unfortunately, I wasn't necessarily a good student. I flunked out on my A-level exams, just like Dilantha. My parents wanted me to be a doctor. I come from the traditional Sri Lankan family of mom's a doctor, dad's a doctor, brother's a doctor, brother married a doctor, whose sister is a doctor. And in this weird twist of fate, I got married recently to my partner who is sitting in front of me, who is also ironically a doctor, whose sister is a doctor. So I studied biology, and I decided to tell my parents that instead of pursuing medicine, I want to pursue a career in video games. Not a fun conversation to have with your parents. It was me and a couple of my friends. We realized that we could play video games, post that content online, and make a little bit of money doing it. Over the years, we had built a small following and a community of 60 million views that was being generated from the videos that we were producing, and we decided we're going to drop out of school, do this full time. It was all great because as an 18-year-old in Sri Lanka, we were making a couple $1,000s playing video games. And we were part of YouTube's monetization program until randomly YouTube wrote to us and said, hey, thank you so much for being a part of our program. You were a part of the beta program. You're now going into official release. And unfortunately, Sri Lanka is not one of the countries recognized for the official release. So we're shutting you down. So by this time, we had intentionally tanked our exams and had decided to do this as a full-time career, told our parents that, the internet is this thing that's going to last, don't worry about it, we'll be fine. And a week after that, everything blows up. Obviously, we didn't tell our parents what happened. We lied and pretended everything was fine for the next 6 months until we ran out of money. The problem with 18-year-olds is if you have a little bit of money, you're not fiscally responsible. You absolutely waste it. So we didn't have a lot of money as well. And at one point, I was talking to my friend, and we were like, look, I convinced him to drop out of university as well, by the way. I don't know who invited me to an education expo. This is a very bad impression that I'm giving people. I convinced him to quit as well, and we said, look, we have to tell our parents because we can't keep pretending this thing is working. We kept on pushing back the start day, the day that we were going to sit down and tell our parents, because my dad's a very conservative guy. We used to get beat with a broomstick as kids, so it wasn't a conversation we were looking forward to have. So we kept on pushing it back, and one day we were like, okay, fine, we're going to tell them next Monday. The Friday before, we found this company that was aware of what we were doing on YouTube and said, hey, we don't need help with video games, but can you help us set up our YouTube channel? A little bit of an aha moment, because all this time we were getting paid based on the number of people watching the content we were producing. All of a sudden, someone's like, hey, we'll pay you to create the content. Looking at it now, it's very common sense, but 10, 15 years ago, that was very mind-blowing to us. We said, okay, never looked back, went to every business we could find and told them we can manage their YouTube channels, which slowly became to helping them with social media, helping them get online, helping them understand the internet and how consumers behaved, which later evolved into a technology business. And today we run a company called Surge. We are a digital marketing and technology consulting firm, one of the biggest in the country. We have 400 people in all sorts of capabilities, working from everything from startups that just raise funding in New York to helping redo the infrastructure for governments and helping them kind of manage their cybersecurity and everything in between. So that's a little bit about us.
Thank you so much. The moment you said your parents are doctors, your brothers are doctors, married to doctors, looking at your some of your content, I was looking at your wife saying, "Isn't she a doctor too?" And then you rightfully brought it up.
It was not intentional. It is complete circumstance.
Right. So now what I'll do is, since we have 5 panelists with different stories, I will not bore you and the audience by asking the same question from all of you. I just wanted to cover your introductions, and then I will look into you and ask specific questions. It might be about education, about challenges and whatnot. And if while I would ask a question, say I would start my question with Adisha. If Harper, you'd want to chip in, feel free to chip in, but I would also follow up with another question to you. By the way, Banuka, this Education Expo is not about education. If you want to promote the idea of dropping out of school, that could also be something, because the vision goes on to say empowering Sri Lanka's youth to be globally competitive. So we are bringing in people who have been globally competitive to share their stories. Sometimes education might be the key, sometimes skills, careers, ideas might be the key. And all those keys we'd like to present it to our youth who are here with us and who will be watching us, so that they can figure out what they'd want to do with their life. Adisha, I think I would like to turn to you for my first question. You mentioned about your challenges and how did that lead you into starting your own fashion brand. Within that, did you feel that you had to upskill yourself or unlearn, relearn something so that you are able to cater to that audience? Were you anyway inside the fashion industry, or was it something completely new to you?
No, actually, I studied human resource management and also psychology. So, fashion, being a fashion entrepreneur is like, I don't know, like, I never learned fashion designing from the beginning, but after 3, 4 years, I started learning about fashion. But what I found actually a solution for my problem I had, and I was very passionate about it. So I started learning from day one, as in, so because this is the first plus size brand in Sri Lanka, so we had a struggle finding data and also the measurements, especially because when it comes to Asian body shape. So we had all the Western body shape, as in measurements, but when we used that, it really didn't match with the Asian body shapes. So especially South Asian. So we had to do everything, the experiment from scratch. So what we did, we had to use like, as in like we spoke to our customers, and then we asked them like, do you like to help with us, help to do this experiment? And then, yeah, so they were very helpful at that point. So we had a lot of challenges, but as to answer the question you asked me, I have never done any fashion studies, but I had a passion. I mean, I have a passion even for my brand right now. So I had so much of, I wanted to learn, but it's not that I learned everything and I started. It was like, I think I challenged myself, I would say. So my subjects were quite totally different, like human resource and psychology. But I would say like psychology is really helping me to when it comes to like, I have to observe my customers. And and also as well as you, I have like my team. So I think psychology is quite helping me right now, because being pluses, it's all about like, you give them a comfort zone, right? It has to be mentally and physically both. So I think, yeah, so I didn't study fashion in this fashion studies, but then I was learning. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you, Adisha. Let me now look at Dilanta. Dilanta, I'm sure in line with what Adisha said, even you wouldn't have studied everything to do with racing. In one of our previous sessions, it was mentioned you need to have 80% of something instead of looking for perfection in everything that will never set you off. What is your relatability there? Because you were mentioning some of the obstacles you had, some of the challenges you had. Did you ever feel an obstacle in the front of skills, maneuvering a vehicle, and whatnot, Dilanta?
Yeah, so actually, before I went to Japan, I raced in Sri Lanka, so I could win most of the races. And So when I did my first race in Japan, it took me about 2 years to save money to buy my first motorcycle. So I used to work about 22 hours a day. And so in the first race, I was the last. So I was very confident. I'm very optimistic always, So when I did my first race, I thought I'm going to win because I win everything in Sri Lanka. Then I realized before you start winning, you need to learn to lose. To accept defeat. So, but on that day, I'll tell you a story. So I was the last, and I went with two of my friends to support me for the race. And then, so my two friends were telling Dilanti, do you think you can ever win or you can even compete with these guys? Because what are the resources you have? These guys have everything. They are factory riders. They get support. And I said, don't worry, I'm going to do it one day. And then when we were loading we went in a very small van. So after the race, I was loading my motorcycle onto the truck, and some of the Japanese riders came to me. Japan is a very nice country. I lived there, but in Asia, they think they are superior, so they don't want another Asian to beat them. So they were a little bit inquisitive, and they thought, he's from Sri Lanka. Is he going to beat us and all that? Anyway, so when I was loading the bike to the van, they came to me and said, where are you from? So I said, very proudly, Sri Lanka. And they said, Sri Lanka, so you all have a lot of elephants there. So I said, yes. Then they said, you're doing the wrong thing. You should race elephants, not bikes with us. So I thought that was not an insult for me, but it was an insult for Sri Lanka. So that's why from that day onwards, I used to carry a big Sri Lankan flag and Sri Lanka. And I thought, I'm going to beat all of you. So when it comes to the technology type, there's a lot of things in racing. You can be a good rider or a driver, but there's a lot of technology involved in racing, a lot, because it's a big industry, racing. And then until very recently, you won't believe, I didn't even have a data engineer. But only thing of what was in my mind, I could do anything. If the four wheels nuts were tightened and if there was brakes, I could still go and beat most of them, because when they said, do you have a data engineer? You have I drove for teams and they used to give me their setup, and I didn't know how to change the setup until very recently. But I still won, So it's all about how you think and how you want to do it, maybe, your toe is 1 millimeter away and you might be 1 millimeter slow. 1 second slow in a lap. But that didn't bother me. I didn't even look at my data, because everyone after race, they sit for hours and hours and they go through the data. But I find sometimes they're too much into it, and their whole mental, they thinking about the data and then they forget their basics, So, but I was like, if I see someone in front, I know how to get in front of him. So I was not bothered that way, because I think I'm mentally very strong and I'm good at my calculations. So I was very good in mathematics in school. So I used to do my calculations while driving. And yes, it's a lot of technology. Still now I have a data engineer. I sometimes look at this data, but other drivers, they're always on the data and always they're on a simulator. I hardly do any simulation, but I close my eyes and I ran my track. I do the simulation closing my eyes with a stopwatch. And I think I'm different to others, but being very strong-minded, I think still I can beat the technology in racing.
Certain things that you mentioned remind me of the movie Ford versus Ferrari, in terms of the difference between the two companies, the two schools of thought in that. Quick follow-up question. So if you feel that you don't look much into data and technology and so on, what is your secret of success? Are you a better driver? Do you drive a better vehicle, or what is it?
Now in GT racing, there's a thing called a BOP, balance of performance. So most of the cars are within a second, a lap time. So maybe within half a second. So they're basically very close to competition. But I think it's all mental. It's a mental game. Because when you are following someone and when someone is following you, there are tricks and ways to do so. The youngsters are very talented. And as I told you, they're always on the simulators and they look at data. But I think mentally you can still beat them, So there are ways. I will tell you the tricks that we should do. And Yeah, so I mean, setting up a car, I know very well now. So I know how to set up this suspension and all that. So when we go to track, I do a few rounds and I can get my setup done. But everything else is your mental. So when I sit in the car just before the race, so everyone is very nervous. About 90% of the drivers are very nervous. I'm not. And I feel I close my eyes and I think I have won the race, you know. So before starting, I always think that I have won. Because during the race, if you think of how are you going to win? I think you're too late for that. So, as I told you, mental thing is very important.
With that, I'd like to move to Chandimal. Chandimal, you stopped your story with your experience of starting to sell cassettes to multiple shops. Through that, how did you do the positive self-talk to building your resilience, to overcoming your obstacles, as well as into then growing your industry into the potential it is in today? What would you like to share in that?
Uh, First of all, I'm not used to talk to these type of serious audiences, but I will answer to your question with when I was trying to come up, then I started with I always wanted to be somebody. So with the releasing of the first instrumental cassette, then I wanted to do a CD. I did the first CD. I released the first CD in Sri Lanka. Even the customs didn't know how to put duty. So when I did the first CD, that was something big in Sri Lanka. Now it's not like that. Then I wanted to do a VCD, video CD. I did that. Then I wanted to do a DVD. I did that. Then I wanted to do a double CD. I did that. And I was not so good with money. Uh, with greatest difficulty, I bought my first small car with a finance facility, and I didn't have money to pay. 4 times, my wife was pregnant. 3 times, my car was seized on the ground, on road. 3 times at traffic lights. Wife was pregnant with the tummy, and we both were asked to get down. And 3 times my car they took. But I never give up. I collected money. I got the same car back to my garage. And the 4th time, also it happened to me with a different vehicle. So I struggled like that, but I never gave up. My life is not bed of roses. I have struggled a lot. Banks were blacklisted me, and I was not being even able to get a loan. Now the banks are coming behind me. I invented one hotelier in my life. He said, Chandimal, it's enough playing at lobbies. Why don't you divert yourself into managing entertainment? Now, Harpo was a DJ. I have listened to him many times. We were Leos, and Harpo used to provide music for our Leo events. Now, where is he? And I am one of his very loyal customers at Commons. At least 5 to 6 days I visit Commons. So I own Commons more than Harpo. And talking about my life, you struggle, and all these students, even at Royal College, I did a lot of skilled development programs. I organized by myself because a lot of students at schools, always teachers and principals, they always say, be a doctor, be an engineer, whatever. But there are 99% students who are very skilled. So I am more into skilled. I like skilled people. I always tell students, there are so many associations, so many schools in this country where they offer skill development free of charge. You can do many things. You can be a hotelier, but you can be a musician, you can be a sound engineer. So talking about my life, I have struggled a lot, but now today I'm somebody. I bring a lot of foreign exchange to my country. I am managing 14 resorts in Maldives, complete entertainment service management. I have more than 100 musicians working for me, Filipinos as well. They are permanently based in Maldives, even in Sri Lanka, I manage 29 outlets with my investment. Even this sound setup is also mine. And I help my school a lot. I love my school. I think I may have spent more than 20, 30 million for my school. I don't have sons. I have two big daughters because I got married when I was 21. Imagine 21 years married. When I was 21, I was married. By 22, I had two daughters. Imagine I was broke. කාර් එකක් සීස් කරනවා කියන්නේ පාරේ. You can imagine how struggle I have gone through. My daughters don't know my life. One day I really wanted to tell them my life, and I'm very emotional, so I don't like to talk more about my life.
We'd love to hear more about your life probably later on. From where you were to how did you become the Chandimal Fernando of the industry? But probably in the next question we'll look into it deeper. Bhanuka, I'd like to look at you now. In terms of, you've spoken about your challenges already, about how the beta program, the monetization program ended, and then you looked into content creation, from there reaching to a certain pinnacle of the industry, or the multiple industries now, given Roost and the other initiatives. What would be your advice? Is it a mindset? Is it looking at the right opportunities at the right time? Or is it having the right people around you? What is it would you attribute to your success?
I think the only thing you really need to do is be curious and have enough grit that you outlast your competition. The way we've built anything or any business is that, you know, you have a certain intuition around opportunity and you just keep poking at it. You keep doing it until you can see how far you can push something. And the more time you spend in a certain environment, you realize that that rabbit hole goes deeper and deeper. And once you find something, you stick to it. That's really all that has been it for me. It's we've been naturally curious, and that has paid out dividends.
In doing that, Bhanuka, have any of the superpowers internationally try to influence you, tell you that it won't work for you, or probably internationally or even locally, because you're this young guy trying to do something, and when you probably step into certain toes or try to do certain things, have you ever had challenges, or am I just shooting in the dark?
Yeah, I think the one thing to remember about Sri Lanka is no one cares. No one cares about this country. No one cares about Royal. No one cares about Anand. No one cares about any of you here. This country is an absolute speck of dust. We are an $80 billion economy, which is smaller than most balance sheets of mid-sized companies in mid-rate countries. As Sri Lankans, we have this kind of sense of ego and entitlement, like, oh, we have 2,500 years of history. We are this, we are that. We are these great people. No one could genuinely care less about you guys. And with that comes a certain drive for you to go out and build things, but no one's trying to stop you. Unfortunately, they just don't even know we exist. So I don't think there's been anyone internationally that has been trying to challenge us, or when we step on toes, it's mostly been, oh, that's really cool. And that's it. Take that how you may. But I think one of the biggest misses we have as people is that people think that we matter, and we don't.
I was having my next question planned for Harpo, but before I go to Harpo, based on what you've said, Bhanuka, I'd like to look at Dilantha. Since with your international exposure, would you relate the same story that Bhanuka mentioned? When you went as a Sri Lankan racer, did people look at you, okay, who are you? Do you matter? You shared the story about the Japanese, but beyond that, even when you were carrying the Sri Lankan flag, any challenges that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, in Japan it was like because I was winning races, winning championships, so they didn't like it honestly, because as I told you, they were very superior, and they hated me, and many times they have disqualified me for nothing, and even saying I had a flying start, and when I go to argue with them, so they said, we'll take off your license, you know. So it was terrible. And even in Asia, when I was doing the championships, 2 times they have taken away my championship, and they can come up with anything. And then the problem is like, we have the federation here, because I can't go and fight with them. I have to complain to the FIA. Then it's a lot of money that, and then there was no support from me. So I was a guy who never gives it up. So I said, okay, this year I didn't win the championship, but next year I will win. So, and at last, what happens in life is, when they can't kill you, they will start appreciating you. So it's like, you're not going to give up, So I never gave up. And then they start at the last, then they start appreciating you, they start respecting you. So it's like, you never give up, If you give up, then it's gone. But, after a while, so Asia and Japan, I had a lot of issues such as, but when I moved to Europe and the States, and even in Australia, when they loved me, and they used to call me Mr. Sri Lanka, because it was hard for them to pronounce my name. And then every time when the commentator doesn't say Dilanta, they say the Sri Lankan. So they always, on the commentator, the Sri Lankan is leading, is winning, Sri Lanka. So everyone started loving me, and they used to call me Mr. Sri Lanka, or they used to call me Mr. Smile. So it's a compliment. But, I think it's not giving up. And like I said, no one cares what we do. So your results depends on yourself, And so end of the day, we can do anything. But if your results are not good, I don't think no one cares. And end of the day, for me, it's my own, self-satisfaction. I come to date, so when I sit in the morning, I always have my trophies around my room. So I think of them, see, and I enjoy it a lot. Maybe I have not, I don't know what is they call a successful life, and what you have and what you don't have. But I think I'm one of the luckiest guys and happiest guys, because I'm so happy and proud of my self-satisfaction. And I went from Sri Lanka, where still we don't even have a circuit, but I beat everyone in the world, so I'm happy about it.
Some food for thought during that last couple of minutes of Bhanuka and Dilanta is, we need to ask ourselves what makes us great. Probably first as a country, then you need to zoom into your individual, probably your families and all that. So normally when you ask a Sri Lankan, okay, what is so great about our country? What do we hear? We hear the the rubbers and the poles, right? We hear Danya Neka Mal Palaturu, Pirijaya Bhumiya Ramya, right? We hear all what the country used to be without any interference of you or your parents or your generation, and we still think that makes us great. Someone also mentioned about the 2,500-year history, the culture, the kings, the mountains we have, to the Sigirias, to everything. But what does it amount to is probably what the two speakers, Dilanta and Bhanuka, also trying to say in terms of, okay, so what? What are you doing using whatever blessings you've got to ensure that you propel forward, or you propel your country forward, is a big question. And then comes to yourself. Okay, maybe your parents are that, your uncle was this, your father, your great-grandfather fought the freedom war, or whatever. But what does it make you? Are you going to live in their shadows forever? Or are you going to take matters into your hand individually, and therefore as a country, just like what Dilanta has done in the field of racing? He didn't say, okay, look, Sri Lanka, the national anthem doesn't talk about racing or motor vehicles. Let me do something that Sri Lanka is known for. Or let me do something of my own, which I'm passionate about, and do it the right way. In doing that, we also have another Sri Lankan statement supporting this. We say, alut de, alut de notanana jatiya lowa nonagi. The country that doesn't innovate doesn't grow. With that context, let me now look at you, Harpo. We've had the Commons, we've had Harpo's Pizza. Harpo's Pizza was not the first pizza restaurant in Sri Lanka. Commons, the things that you've done at Commons, good example is the Roti Karat. It wasn't the first roti shop in Sri Lanka, but you've brought in a new energy, a new vibe into it. What was your thinking going into those innovations?
Yeah, so, yeah, it was not the first pizza company. It was Pizza Hut and Domino's, the international players. And I was the first Sri Lankan wood-fired pizza. That concept was brought in by me 16 years ago. And now we have about 4 or 5 branches, and we are franchising overseas now. And yeah, interesting thing about the Roti Karat there. That's a story which I should actually tell you all guys. It was before the war we opened our businesses, And people said, you're mad to leave John Keel's. And, you know, I met my friend Mahinda, who's here, I just saw him. But I was a GM of a property, and then they said, you're going to start your own business. And I left John Keel's and I set up in 2004. And that's the year tsunami hit, and then what the shit have I gone and done now, right? But saying that, yeah, Commons was the first, and now we have eight restaurants, one overseas as well in India. The roti karate was something, you know, when business was bad at that time. So I was thinking, how the hell can I increase revenues, you know? And I remember as a kid, you know, we used to see this karate going down the street with the guy hitting the bell and shouting in the evening saying, roti, 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 you know? And we used to all run out, and we yet see it down. I see it down Horton Place yet, you know? And I thought, okay, I'm going to build a roti cart, and I thought I'm going to push it around in the evening in Colombo, you know, in the evening in Colombo. And then the former president, obviously defense secretary at that time, said, no, it's a bomb threats and security purposes, etc., etc., etc. And I just pursued, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take it to people's houses now, you know. And it has become a brand now. Every major function or exhibition or anything, the roti karate has become a brand, and now it's been franchised in the Maldives as well. So that was the story. And our business is all to do with innovation, you know, just keep thinking, keep innovating. Never a dull moment. Hospitality industry is never a dull moment. Obviously, you're, you know, catering to different people, you know, at different levels, you know. And yeah, you got to either love it or you don't do it. Don't waste your time. You know, if you don't love it, you cannot serve people, you know. And you have to love what you do, especially in the hospitality industry, you know. And like for me, like I said, like the duck taking to water for me, it was very, very easy. And having the entertainment thing at the back of my palm, it just blended so perfectly, and I'm absolutely enjoying it, as I said right now even.
I think I'd like to probe you a bit more on the Harpo story. You touched upon it, saying, of course, it's not the first because you had international players already established in the country. And then you came up with a solution of the wood fire oven. That's what you call it?
Wood fire pizza. Yeah.
The wood fire pizza. How did you think that it would work? Or were you sure that Sri Lankans would like it? How was your take on it?
But actually, you know, I'm not Harpo, right? You know that, right? No, I'm not Harpo. That's my pet name. I got a bank account called LCP Gunratna, right? I know you guys might be shocked, but that's the fact. It's my dad who called me Harpo as a kid, because he looked at the Marx Brothers, Harpo, Groucho, and Chico, the three comedians, and he said, I looked like Harpo with curly hair up to my shoulders. And he called me Harpo. And so that's how it happened, you know. I went to college and people called me Harpo because my brother called me Harpo, and then it just stuck. And talking about the wood fire, yeah, so the brand Harpo became a brand by itself, you know. And it's only I signed also as Harpo. My credit card, some of my credit cards go as Harpo. And until my daughter told me recently, hey, listen, if you go overseas and they're asking for your ID, how did a bank issue a card called Harpo? There's no one called Harpo. And then I had to go back and change my cards too, you know, which is crazy. But coming back to the wood fire, I think it was Domino's and Pizza Hut was just, as I said, big players, you know, and I was always thinking to be a homegrown brand, you know. And of course, I had my chef who was working a lot in Singapore and who joined me, you know. And how it all happened was how Harpo's Pizza came about was I was sitting, at that time I had a friend who was the GM of the Fortress, and I was having a couple of wines in the evening. I see this pizza being pulled out of the oven, and I came back to Colombo. And I called my advertising company, Grant McCain Erickson, at that time, you know. And they said, let's call it Harpo's Pizza. I said, Harpo's Pizza? No way. Imagine my name going all around Colombo on motorcycle. They said, no, you can't call it Lalit Pizza because that's my actual name is Lalit, right? I said, yeah, let's go for Harpo, you know. And I used to stand out and I used to have these cards and I used to give people who used to come to my restaurant, you know, please call me if you want a pizza, you know. And I started my own delivery company, you know. And we were the first to do the biggest pizza in Colombo, which is the 19-inch pizza. My chef thought I was out of my head. He said, you can't put a pizza into the oven, it's 19 inches, you know. I said, no, we have to do it. Then 3 years after that, I said, no, we got to do a 22-inch pizza. He thought I was really cuckoo, you know. And a square pizza of all things. So I just kept innovating, you know, and like to say, you know, you have a a marketing edge of all the others because we are the only people in Colombo who do the massive pizza then for 22 and 19. And the brand has grown since then, and we keep innovating, and maybe next year I'll do a 24-inch pizza. You never know.
Right. So since we have roughly 10 to 15 more minutes remaining, I want to do full 2 rounds. So first round is going to be about yourself. I would ask you to look into yourself and tell the audience maybe 1 or 2 of your biggest strengths which enabled your success. Secondly, when we go on the second round, I'm telling this to you now so that you don't spoil that second round in the first round itself. I would want you to share your biggest advice to an aspiring individual who would want to enter your industry. Hospitality, to motor racing, to marketing technology, to showbiz or fashion. Enter your industry and shine in it. What would be your key advice to that? Right, so I would like to start the first round from Harpo and come to Banuka, and then I'll take the last question at random. Your biggest advice. So this round, Harpo, is on your strengths, which ensured your success.
Yeah, so I think my strengths have always been people, I connect with people. And I think that fits the hospitality industry perfectly. And that has been the success of being able to connect with people, be able to understand your customer, which is important I think in any industry, it's important that you understand your customer. That's the most important thing. And of course, it's the people who are with you. You see, you cannot run hospitality on your own. It's the team which is behind the brand, And my policy has been a very open door policy, where anybody can talk to me, from the garden to my security, anybody. I don't have an office actually. I sit at a desk in a veranda, and I don't carry a pen even to work, So I have that strength of connecting with people, and there's never a dull moment. Like I said, every day you're juggling from property to property. You meet people, you connect with people, So that has been the strength for me, and and now that my daughter is taking over that, and she's very much into the industry. She went overseas and studied, and she connects very well with people as well. So I think connecting with people is the success.
Right, connecting with people. Dinanta, what is your take?
I mean, with the things I did, I think I had to take a lot of risk, and because I had to start from scratch, and the problem was I went to Japan, I didn't know the language, I didn't have money, I lived in a van for about 6 months with a meal a day. But I think it's all having trust on myself, the confidence, and never giving up. And I was a dream always. I dream, and when I dream, I want to make it happen, just not dreaming, waking up. So I think I had so much of confidence on myself. I had so much trust on myself, and I was dreaming, and I made it through.
Connecting with people, self-trust, self-confidence, and taking that risk at the right time. Adisha?
Yeah, I would say I also don't give up easily because I can remember when we started Double XL in 2010, 26th of March. Everyone was like, Adisha, only plus size clothing, so you're not getting enough revenue. So would you like to have some small sizes also? But I didn't want to repeat or didn't want to have the same experience to my customer. So from that, from 2010 to now, I just want to make the comfortable zone for them. So at that point, if I gave up, to putting all the small sizes, I stick to the original plan. I'm so glad that my team and also the other 2 directors, they were really with me at that point. So I would say I don't give up easily. And during the pandemic also, I spent more than 2 years, working on my franchisee model. So I really want to make Double XL global very soon. So I think that's me. And actually, I am a national powerlifter too. So I selected for Commonwealth in 2020. So even in that sport, I think I got this, the confidence and also that never giving up kind of a feeling, So yeah, so I think that's me. Yes.
A sub question. Did you ever end up recruiting that sales lady who spoke a bit negatively of you?
No, no. But I have told my staff, if especially sales staff, don't ever, discourage a customer or to talk to a customer like that, because they come with like, now see, I myself, like, I can go down to like size 56, 55 if I really work out, and if I really like stick into like healthy lifestyle, right? But sometimes you have to enjoy your life, right? So I mean, it happens when you travel, you have to eat, like, you may have to have like a nice hot chocolate, like, so you just enjoy your life in the meantime. You have to, I mean, it's good, right? It's good, like, if you can stick to a healthy diet. But double XL is not promoting a unhealthy lifestyle. It's like we are giving a solution for them to be comfortable. Yeah.
Because often people confuse body shape and directly link it to unhealthy, but that's not unhealthy. It's a lot more. Body shape is linked to a lot other things. Thank you very much. Chandimal, what is your take on your strengths that propelled you forward?
24/7 work, contactability. I never switch off my phone. I have just one number from the day one dialogue started. WhatsApp, Viber, voice, same number from the day one dialogue started. So I never switch off my phone line. Anybody can talk to me. And always, whenever I do events, whenever I do corporate events, whenever I perform for weddings, I have so many clients. Maybe I would have played for more than 10,000 plus weddings. Now I experience playing for daughter's wedding of their parents, which I have played 25, 30 years ago. So it's very, very, very nice to see that kind of weddings. And I always do little extra. I quote something, but I always deliver more than what I say. That's my passion, that's my style. So customer is always happy, value for money. So I give my best. Most important thing is artist should be very humble, down to earth. Wherever I go, I never mention my name. I never say my name. I don't come on TV, so people cannot recognize me. Sometimes I go to Torana or whatever, I can see people buying my products, but they don't know I'm standing next to them. So I'm somebody like that, because I like to go to any cyber joint and just sit and eat whatever I want, cyber diet. Every day I visit Rahima. So I'm a very simple man. Every day I go to Commons. Harper knows that. And contactability, yes. You have to be very down to earth and very humble.
Again, another sub question to you, Chandimal. You mentioned about you've played at the parents' wedding and also the child's wedding. How have you been up to date with the music trends? Is it a habit that you have, or does it come to you with your collections and so on?
Whenever I drive, I listen to Sinhala music. So I am always updated with all the Sinhala music. මෙතන සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කියනවා මල් සින්දු ඒ ඔක්කොම මම දන්නවා. And we can play on the spot. Any artist comes, we can back them. We know the song. At the same time, I grew up with all English oldies, so that's in our blood. Clarence songs, that's in our blood. Nowadays music, we listen. So I'm really updated.
Right. Banuka, what's your take on your strengths?
I think people really struggle to change their mind. I follow this guy called Paul Graham, and he said something that has been incredibly profound to me throughout everything we've started. He made this statement saying, strong opinions loosely held. If you should be willing to change your mind in spite of new evidence. If that means you've been believing in something for 10 years, when new evidence presents itself, you should be willing to turn 180 and walk the other direction as fast as possible. That has been incredibly helpful for us.
How have you balanced that with the natural egos of human beings? That's the biggest problem we see in that.
I've made a lot of enemies doing that. I haven't balanced it.
Lovely. Right. Now comes to the final question with interest of time. Your advice to those who are watching to shine within your industry. Let me start with Adisha.
Well, I would say just believing in yourself and also do what you love. Because if you don't give 100%, then you can't be an entrepreneur. Because it's not easy job. It's hardworking. Uh, and also, I would say, like as Dilanta mentioned, entrepreneurs are dreamers because we have a very lonely place when it comes to when you go to your room, you have your laptop, your coffee, and yourself and your dream, right? You just dream and others can't understand what you're dreaming. So they sometimes go nuts. So I happened many times. So my advice is be passionate and find your passion and do what you love and give your 100%. Yeah.
Thank you. That's from Adisha, who is a specialist in the fashion industry. Let me now turn to Dilanta. From a very different industry from fashion, what's your advice?
Yeah, I think we all live only once, so you got to do what you love. So it's being passionate, and it's not easy. I mean, in my industry, to go from Sri Lanka is very difficult because, as I told you, we don't have an infrastructure. So it's a lot of hard work. But end of the day, as I told you, it's end of the day, it's your self-satisfaction. And when you go there and you do it, and you be very proud of yourself, So if you can be proud of yourself, and your self-satisfaction. But what I say is, we live only once, so do whatever you like, what passionates you. Because the thing is, if you are not passionate, you will halfway through, you will stop it, And so you got to do it, and yeah. So, and I think one more reason I felt after I left home is that I don't like anyone controlling me. The problem is when people start controlling you, your performance dies, So even when I was driving for teams until I started my own team, so they give me team orders, like, yeah, you have to stop there. No, you have to brake. Don't let him go, or let him go, and you're too fast on that corner. It's disturbing. You're going 280, 300 kilometers per hour, and these guys are trying to control you, So I think after I started my own team, Dilango Racing, that's the time we won mostly every race and every championship. So I think, maybe your spouse, maybe your parents, your seniors, I don't know. People can manage you, but no one should ever control you. So I think after I left home, no one was there to control me. And I think that's the advice that I can give.
I think another perspective of that is sometimes people just try to give you advice and you overthink it and think that they're trying to control you. Both sides. Some people genuinely try to control you. Some people just tell you something and you get very worried and frustrated. I think that both side of a mindset, and that's a very valid point. Thank you very much, Danta, for raising that. Let me now turn to Bhanuka. From fashion to racing to marketing and technology, what is your advice?
Very few people understand what's going on and don't take anyone's advice. If you want to try something, the unit cost of trying something is incredibly low. So anything anyone says, take with a grain of salt and try it for yourself. See how that goes, take that insight, learn, change, test, and adapt. And that's really all you need to know.
Including this advice?
Yes.
Right. Hapo or Lalit. Hapo.
Yeah, sometimes some people call me Lalit. I say, what?
Whom are you talking to?
Yeah, you get the bank someday going, Lalit. And yeah, so just coming back to, I just put in a nutshell, you got to follow what you like. If you like something, just do it and give it your best, and then you will be a success, But don't waste your time. If you're doing something you don't like it, don't do it, because you're hindering the person you're working for, or you're not happy. The main thing is to be happy, enjoying it, and also very, very important. What I look at is treating people properly, to treat people well, from any walk of life. Being able to treat people well, because your success is not you, it's the people around you who made it. So that's something I would like to end with.
Thank you, Hapo. Finally, Chandimal, what's your take? What is your final advice?
My advice is always try to develop your skills. I'm dead against schools saying only become doctor, become a engineer. At Royal College, I always give advices to my fellow students. develop your skills. I'll give you a small example. If you take a piano technician, piano technicians, I mean, you all hire piano technicians to tune your piano at home. You know how much they charge? Maybe half an hour job, 3,500 to 5,000 rupees. My piano technician is a chartered accountant. On his way back, he drop in maybe 4-5 houses, 25,000 a day. Piano technician, skilled, simple. You develop your skills. Music is also a skilled, God-given talent. But myself as a musician, frankly, I don't enjoy music. God has given me a talent. I deliver that whenever I come on stage, something comes to me and I just deliver. When I go down, music is not my subject. I don't enjoy, but God has given me something. So I just deliver what that talent has in me. I never prepare myself. I just come on stage and I just talk and I can do. So my advice to all these young people at schools, develop your skills. Majoring කියලා දෙයක් තියෙනවනේ universities. So try to develop something. You can do wonders.
Chandimal, if you ever write your autobiography, I think the title should be The Musician Who Never Enjoys Music. Is that correct?
I recently, I even put up an article and so many friends started calling me, Machang, are you okay? Yes. And this is what I'm sharing is true. It's right. And I really love to help people because I struggle my life. I lost my younger life. I had never enjoyed my younger life. So now I can feel somebody's struggle. So sometimes I handpick people and I go out of my way, even spending money, and I try to help a lot of people. That's my passion.
So in summary, I was just thinking we have people from 5 very different industries. But if I am to summate everything that they've mentioned in terms of their final advice, it's more or less very similar. It is all very congruent. It says, okay, what they've said is don't worry about what others are saying. Don't let that control you. You do your thing, the thing that you enjoy, and develop your skills in doing that. It simply comes to that. So if we had only 2 people saying the same thing, it would have been the same thing. But why we had 5 people from 5 different industries, not that we scripted this, it's to see because in any industry, those, along with the care for people, your employees, your consumers, would be the key to ultimate success in whatever you want to do. Passion with the commitment and with the right skill set. Not education, no academic, the right skill set. Maybe it is education, maybe it is practice, maybe it is experience. That is what will ensure that you are empowered to be globally competitive. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. I would like to invite our chairman, Mr. Galagedra, to join us on stage to present all of you with some tokens of appreciation before we conclude today's session.
He was one of my mentors. He was one time FMB director at Intercontinental, the original chain. I have played more than 15, 16 years when he was the boss.
First, the token was presented to Mr. Dilantha Malagamo, and now we'd like to present to Mr. Harpo Gunratna. Next, we'd like to appreciate Adisha Dahanayaka. Next, I'd like to invite Chandimal Fernando to accept his token of appreciation. And finally, thank you very much to Barnuka Harishchandra for joining us. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahinda Galagedara. And with that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and for your thoughts. And wishing you all the very best in all your future endeavors. Thank you very much.